1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Cool.
I did it right this time.
Wait, you did it wrong last time?
I mean, it took us multiple tries to see if we can kick this off.
Counting to 8 on its own is difficult.
This is so true. I didn't really learn my numbers as a kid. Or now.
As an adult.
As an adult, still don't know those things.
I mean, when's the last adult counting class that you've heard of? Because I can't find any at my local YMCA.
Seriously. I mean, I don't find them at any of my local bars.
Yeah.
I mean, that's where I do all of my activities, so come on.
At my mental hospital. All right. Hey, welcome to episode 38 of We Can't Code, So We Criticize. This is a weekly video game podcast between two friends where we share relatively biased opinions on our favorite games. My name is Ben.
And my name is Cole.
Yes.
I introduced myself right.
I was going to say, I'm so used to hearing Mike now that the second you said that, I was like, oh, someone fucked up. But no, that is correct. Your name is Cole. I'm just used to hearing Mike so much. I've got to get used to it. It's a little weird right now.
I mean, I thought about saying Mike again, but, I don't want to really keep using that joke over and over again. And at this point, I kind of forgot who Mike was, so I just wanted to move past it.
We all forgot who he was at this point. He's got one of those forgettable faces and voices and everything.
Exactly.
Right, so, as we mentioned, this is a video game podcast, so instead of talking about has-beens, how about we talk about video games? Cole, how was your week last week? Games, movies, whatever, Black Friday stuff, what'd you buy? How was your Thanksgiving? All that.
My Thanksgiving was fantastic. It was
Yeah?
just Cass and I for a nice, quiet Thanksgiving, cooking a nice big turkey and a bunch of sides. It's just the two of us and can't complain.
Cooking.
You okay?
Yeah, I was gonna say cooking turkey and doing jerky, doing the jerky. But I kind of I was gonna maybe not say it, and then once you caught me, I was like, "Fuck, I'll just go through it anyway."
Kind of wish you didn't.
Yeah, talking turkey and doing the jerky. I'll just say it twice now.
Perfect. But yeah, no. Black Friday deals were pretty good this week. I definitely jumped on board for the Steam sales that were going on, and I picked myself up 2 new games.
Ooh.
I know. One of them being Subnautica, and the other one being Prey. Both of them a little bit older games, but always been something I've wanted to pick up, and I'm very excited for.
Subnautica's not that old. It's 2 years old or something. It's fine. Prey is 3, 4?
It's a year old.
Prey is only a year old?
I'm pretty sure it's only a year old.
Dang, that game got old fast.
I mean, it's the new Prey, not like the old original Prey.
I don't know what that means.
Did you ever play the original Prey games? You played as a Native American who's out at his desert bar, and then all of a sudden aliens abduct you.
Is that what is that what the current Prey is also about?
No, nothing like that at all.
Okay.
Completely different game. They just use the exact same name, but different games completely.
So you no longer play as a space abducted Native American man?
Pretty much.
Okay.
It is still in space, though.
But you're not Native American.
Not that I know of.
So you might be. It might be a direct sequel. You don't know that.
It looks different. Because in the other one, every time you died, you went into a spiritual form. That the only way you could come back to life was to kill an enemy using your spiritual bow and arrow.
Is that racist or
I mean, it kind of was pushing the boundaries, I feel like.
Was it a modern game? Would it have made more sense for him to use a gun?
It was on the Xbox 360, so... And it was set in a fairly modern time.
Okay.
So, yeah.
It's a different time back then,
The early 2000s, Late 2000s, I guess.
It's Grandpa telling his stories about how, the neighborhood's getting colorful or something. It's, back in those days. Oh, it was a different time then. Early 2000s. Practically 15 years ago.
It's practically like 20 years at this point, dude. It's crazy.
If I close my eyes, I can kind of remember my flip phone. I mean, I don't know.
I still dream about my old flip phone, and the fact that they're coming out with a new one that is like a smartphone flip phone that is shaped like a razor. I am so excited for that.
Cool. By the way, if anyone is currently hearing a buzzing noise, oh, it went away. There's something wrong with the. As everyone loves audio problems on a podcast. Yeah, the house that I'm in currently, for some reason, is making a buzzing noise every once in a while. So just ignore that.
I didn't even hear a sound. I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, it'll come up. Don't you worry about that. All right, let's get back on track.
Back on track.
I'm the tangent master today. So
I can see that. One other thing I did get was Sekiro Shadows Die Twice.
Yeah. That's only on PS4, right? Or did you get it on something else?
Got it on Steam.
Oh, I didn't even know it was on PC. Cool.
It was cross-platform, so it's by the same developers as Dark Souls.
Yeah, From Software. Mm-hmm.
Yep. So, I mean, they always do cross-platform, which is really nice because I love the Dark Souls series.
Okay. This is interesting because Mike and I always hated it, so now we've got a defender of the Dark Souls-ish games. Interesting conversations ahead.
Yes. I do just really love dying over and over again, and then finally, after a while, finally killing that thing and feeling so good.
So good. All right. So I saw you playing Subnautica. Is that the one that you've put the most time into so far?
Yeah, so that's definitely the one I've been really sinking my teeth into is Subnautica. And that game, the whole premise is your ship crash lands on an alien planet, and...
Are you a Native American?
I'm not Native American.
How do you know?
I don't, actually. I can't see myself.
Okay.
I'm just very long and lanky. I know that.
Do you have a bow and arrow?
I have a knife.
And a harpoon gun?
I wish.
Continue. So, how many Space Native American games are you currently playing? 2 or 12?
I'm playing all of them. All
two of them.
God damn it. To get back on track again. The whole idea is you're trying to survive on this planet that is just covered in water. Figuring out why your ship crashed and trying to figure out a way to survive and get off the planet. And I put in quite a few hours into this game so far, and I have to say I'm super sucked into it. It's so much fun.
I heard it can be scary at some points.
There are... So, like, you start off, like, in a nice little, like, reef area. All the creatures around you are nice and friendly. They're all, like, neon lights and all really, like, pretty-looking fish. And, but the further you kind of go away from that and the deeper the water gets, the more intense the creatures really get. And I've definitely jumped out of my seat, shitting myself, because of a giant creature that has just, like, jumped up behind me and eaten me in one bite.
Ooh.
Yeah. There's things called reapers that kind of just, like, hang out in different areas. They're considered a Leviathan level creature, which just means they're as large, or they're larger than any kind of watercraft that you can build. And they can pretty much just absolutely destroy you. And I don't know how, because this thing is so giant, how it can be so stealthy, because every time I've encountered it, it always shows up right behind me, trying to eat me. and I have to try to run away to get away from it. So it makes me really scared to go near any like open, deep water because I know that stupid thing is going to jump out at me again. It's going to eat my ship.
Can you kill it? Like, how do you deal with that?
I haven't figured that one out yet. So I just unlocked decoys you can drop into the water. It's supposed to attract fish to it. So I'm hoping that's how I get past them. The only other thing I can think of is by swimming or driving your little submersibles as fast as you can and hoping it doesn't eat you.
All right. I was considering getting this game in VR. Now you're making me second guess myself.
I still would really... I want to try this game in VR. Like, the whole swimming and underwater aspect, like, it's really, really cool. But there is just that, like, slight suspense of, like, there's creatures in the water that are out to get you.
Yeah.
So that kind of, like, little bit of suspense on the edge definitely will make you jump, especially, like, the first time you run into them. But overall, like, you don't encounter them a ton. Like, for me, I've spent a lot of time kind of up in the upper areas, just building little underwater bases, and crafting new equipment for myself, and not really taking too much time in the deep end just yet. But just like the VR experience, just of how cool that the whole game looks, and the whole just experience of being underwater, I think would be really fun to play in VR.
Yeah, I agree. I think it would be a great time. So have you touched any of the other games, by the way?
So the only other game I have tried is I put a little bit of time into Sekiro.
Mm-hmm.
Just because I have heard that one has a lot different battle mechanic compared to the Dark Souls games. So I really wanted to try it out. Mainly because in the normal Dark Souls games, you have the ability to just dodge and roll every time an enemy attacks. So, you okay there?
I dropped my phone.
I thought some giant creature was attacking you.
Fish.
But so in Sekiro, instead of dodging out of the way, the new mechanic is you actually have to parry the enemy's attacks. And every time you parry, you get an opportunity to attack the enemy and get like a killing blow on them. And so far, I've only put maybe an hour or two into it, but just that like basic mechanic of actually doing like sword fights with enemies has been really fun.
Yeah. I've always heard those games have pretty good combat, so, I mean, that's good to hear. It sounds like they took a chapter out of Bloodborne where, I know that it's all the same developer, but people keep saying that Bloodborne is superior to Dark Souls lately because it's a lot faster. So this sounds like it's on the same caliber of kind of making that process of defeating an enemy a bit more immersive rather than evade, evade, evade.
Yeah, it definitely seems a lot faster. I haven't gotten too far into it, as I said, so I don't know, like, in Dark Souls, you really have to grind in some areas just to get some stats so you can survive more than one hit on certain enemies. So I don't know if I'm going to have to spend a lot of time, like, grinding, especially, like, every time you stay at an altar or a bonfire, it's considered a rest, so it heals you, but it also respawns all the enemies around you.
That's not fun.
It's not bad if you like enjoy fighting creatures near you, or you want to kind of do some farming for a bit. Makes it real easy.
Get a samurai game. Do I look like I enjoy combat? No. Why do you think I bought this game?
Oh, I did. It does start you off pretty early with the prosthetic arm that you get, which allows you to actually switch out different attachments. And right now I just have the grappling hook, so I can swing from building to building.
That's
So I've been
cool.
just playing like Spider-Man, jumping on top of buildings, then jumping off on top of them.
Ninja, samurai, Spider-Man.
Ninja Samurai. Oh, yeah.
That sounds pretty good. I've never been a huge fan of those games myself, but it sounds like you're enjoying yourself. And you haven't touched the last one yet, huh? Prey?
I haven't touched Prey just yet.
All right.
That one, I know, like, you really have to sit down and play that one. And the other ones are kind of like, I'm okay picking up for a little bit, putting it back down and leaving. And just because it is getting into the holiday season, I've had things going on. It's been kind of nice, just like quick, play a little bit, put it down, go do something else. So I'm waiting till I have some actual time to sink my teeth into Prey. So holding off on that one for right now.
That makes sense. There's games that are a bit more story driven that it's probably better if you have a good chunk of time for them.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Let's see.
What about you? What did you pick up for the Black Friday?
Nothing. I sold all my consoles. No. So I got a couple things after my family came in on Thanksgiving on Thursday. We were all just hanging out, and I was telling them that I might go do some Black Friday shopping on Friday, and we were trying to decide when that would all work on Friday. We were like, well, we're all supposed to be doing this early in the morning and then this later in the evening and the afternoon. And I was telling them, like, well, when do you think we could stop at a Best Buy or something? And we all kind of looked at each other and we were like, well, we could go tonight. So we actually did a Black Friday midnight run on Thanksgiving night. So that was great. And I didn't pick up much, but I got a couple things. I got 3 games and 2 movies.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Nice.
So let's start with the movies because there's not much to talk about with those. I got the Harry Potter Blu-ray collection. It was on sale from $80 to $32. And it's like 8 movies plus bonus features and everything. So I was all about that. Next,
dude, that ain't bad. Especially like, who can't just rewatch the Harry Potter series?
Yeah,
That's something I at least do once a year.
Okay, I haven't seen them in any time recently, but do you remember when we were in college? I had this friend. I had a roommate, Jason, and whenever we would get done from a night of drinking over the weekends, we would always come back, and neither of us. You know, when you're drunk, you're like, oh, I should drink some water. I should eat some food or something because I don't want to be throwing up tomorrow morning. So traditionally, him and I would always put on a Harry Potter movie. So both of us were always basically blackout by the time we ever put on a Harry Potter movie. But we made it through, I think, 1 through 6 on each of these drunken, blackout, kind of sobering up sort of nights. So it's a little nostalgic for me, the Harry Potter series. Not because... They're a good film, but I more think of my college days as like this is something to put on in the background while I sober up.
Oh man, yeah, I definitely don't have that same experience, but that is hilarious that was like your whole thing is you guys would watch Harry Potter. So I didn't even actually know about that at all. That's funny.
Yeah, we didn't know what to do, and because there's so many Harry Potter movies, like we watched the first one and then we just kept going through them. I don't know. I can't remember if Jason pirated them or if he actually had them, but he just was able to procure every single Harry Potter movie for every single weekend that we got way too drunk, which was like every weekend.
Oh man, that's hilarious.
So that's the first thing I got. The second movie that I got is one of my favorite horror films of the most recent, or one of the more recent favorite horror films I've seen, It Chapter 1.
Ooh.
Yeah, I really liked it. It Chapter 2 was so-so, but the first one was really great. Not much to talk about there, though. Like I said, just a couple movies. Okay, on to the good stuff. The games. I bought and already beat Resident Evil 2 Remake.
Already beat that game? Holy cow.
So with Resident Evil, there's typically several playthroughs. There's the A campaign and the B campaign. So you could play as Leon Kennedy, the police officer, or Claire Redfield, Chris Redfield's brother. I don't know if anyone knows what I'm talking about. You can play as two people, and they take two different stories.
You mean his sister, right?
What did I call her? Girlfriend? Boyfriend?
Brother? I'm pretty sure that is a female character you can play as, not a male character.
Not her boyfriend with the same last name and being a woman.
Definitely not the brother.
Yeah, that one. So I didn't try her out, but the game has... I don't know how intense the B story is. I heard that the A story is kind of where the action, or like where a majority of the fun is at. But you only cross over once or twice during the 8-hour campaign. So it's not like you can just like pick one character and then pick the other character and play the exact same campaign. They both have different stories to go along with what they're doing. And then they have a little bit of crossover, but just for a moment here or there. So I played the first Leon Kennedy's playthrough, and that was really good. I would say that it started out great. I like that Resident Evil's... The first couple Resident Evils were very confined. So in the first Resident Evil, you're kind of stuck in that mansion. And you don't really go out of the mansion too much. I've only played the Resident Evil 1 a few times. Resident Evil 2 is kind of the same thing. You start in a police station, and you don't really get out of the police station too much. So I'm not looking to ruin the game for anyone. But I would just say... the game I would split up into two halves. And the part where you are exploring the police station is amazing. And then the second half, probably not so great. I kind of felt it started to slip into like those traditional Resident Evil trends that we all kind of think about today. Like over-the-top action. It feels more surreal than less down to earth, as in the first half felt very grounded, being in like one location, very, high quality details and textures and everything. Everything made a lot of sense, and everything had a point in being where it was, because the game knew that you were going to be revisiting these places over and over and over for a while.
Yeah, and I don't know. I never actually played the first few Resident Evils, but was the original, did you go to that other location at all in the original? Or also, I mean, that game is old, so I don't think you're really spoiling it by saying what the other location is. But that's just me. I also don't care about spoilers.
I care somewhat.
Yeah.
And if someone told me of other locations in Resident Evil 2, I would be a little disappointed, especially since the game came out earlier this year. It's not even a year old. Granted, it's a remake, but still, I hadn't played Resident Evil 2. I was definitely in that criteria of like, oh, the original looks way too old to enjoy, and the controls look clunky, and the camera looks... that still camera looks shit, but this one looked good. So I would say that I think... I don't want to give any spoilers. I'll just say that much. I would rate it a 7 out of 10, though, after some thought. The first half, honestly, if it just ended prematurely and didn't get to the second half, I would probably give this game closer to a 9, but they just have to add the typical Resident Evil tropes to it. The bigger picture kind of stuff. It's when you first start out, it's a guy in a police station and you're surrounded by zombies. At the end of the game, then the real, the overarching umbrella plot comes into play, and it's just kind of like, oh, God, no one cares. Like, it... yeah. And the other thing, too, and once again, I'm trying to talk kind of ambiguously for a reason here, but the other thing, too, is that for anyone who has played any of the Resident Evils that follow Resident Evil 2, so if you've played 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 at this point, or any of the Revelations or anything... like, you kind of know the major plot points being, and this is a minor spoiler, but Umbrella is behind the zombie attack. I'm sure.
What? No way.
Yeah.
Definitely would not have gotten that from any of the Resident Evil games.
Exactly.
all.
I mean, everyone knows that now. Like, there's been 8 movies, I think, of Resident Evil. Like, it's
Yeah.
hard to even say Resident Evil without knowing exactly what the Umbrella Corporation is. But in this one, they're like, the Umbrella Corporation's behind it all, and the guy's like, what? You know, how is that possible?
What? I would never have guessed that at all.
So it's like there's no way they could have fixed that because it's their story. I kind of wish that they just like spun off and did their own thing. But the first half, when your guy is just a dude basically imprisoned in a police station surrounded by zombies, I like that. I like that of just surviving, exploring, going basically from nothing, no guns, no bullets, no nothing, to the not like some incredible arsenal, but having a couple shells for your shotgun, having like 20 rounds in your pistol. Like, it's good to get to that level.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, 7 out of 10 for Resident Evil 2. I also was gonna start with this, but I'll just lead into it. I beat Kingdom Hearts 3, and that was very bad.
All right, good talk. So the next thing, what was the other game you picked up?
Yeah, let's just tread over Kingdom Hearts 3 really quickly. I already talked about how bad I hated Kingdom Hearts 3, but I'm just going to say it finishes even worse than it plays. I would give the game, I think last week I gave the game a 3 out of 10. After seeing the game come to a conclusion, or what it would call a conclusion, I'd give it about a 2 out of 10.
Just kept getting worse. You should have quit while you were ahead.
I kind of did. I got to the last boss battle. Have you ever? Okay, let me step back a couple moments. Have you watched The Lord of the Rings: Return of the King, the last of the Lord of the Rings movies?
Of course.
Okay, you remember at the end where it's like, this is the ending, and then it doesn't end, and you're like, okay, they've got to show this one more scene. This is the ending, and then it doesn't end. He's like, okay, when the fuck is this ending? Do you remember that?
Oh yeah, you get the ending for every single character that was in the movie, or it's like, oh my god, yes.
Yeah, they give the audience no respect at all, of just like, fill in the fucking blanks yourself. They have to show what happens to every single of like the 500 people you see in the last in the entire trilogy. They have to like give some kind of a wrap up, as if no one can be like, they live their fucking lives, I don't need to see what happened, okay? That's kind of what happened with Kingdom Hearts 3, but it's for the bosses. So the whole time you're being bombarded by this group of bad guys, and all they do is they come in, they say like, fuck you, you piece of shit, and then they leave, and that's all that happens. You don't fight any of them, and then the end comes up. And I'm sorry if this is a spoiler in comparison to Resident Evil 2, but I honestly just don't give a shit about this game anymore. But all that they do, the entire, what would you say, like 25-hour campaign, is just show up for a moment, have like a 30-minute dialogue conversation where they're just like, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you, and then they just leave, and they're like, you're all pussies, and then they just like flee like a little bitch. And that's all that they do. You don't fight them, you don't do anything. And then at the end, you take down every single one of them in a row, then you take down all of them together, then you take down all of them combined into one thing, then you take down the final guy. So you fight 13 individual battles at the beginning, then you fight one mega boss battle with all of them, then you fight another one, then you fight another one. You fight like 10 bosses in a row. And the last boss has like 4, what would you call it, phases, I guess? Mm-hmm. So it's like the fucking never-ending story. It's like Lord of the Rings, when you're like, this is the ending. This has to be the ending. I've whooped this guy's ass up and down for the last hour, 2 hours, honestly. But no, he's like, no, you haven't even seen my final form. And then, some other fucking bullshit happens. Oh my god. I got to the last boss battle, and I was like, I really just don't even care. I played him 2 times, I lost, and I was like, I could honestly spend the next 3 hours trying to beat this guy, but fuck it, I pulled up a YouTube video, and I was like, this is good, this is fine.
Did everyone at least turn out to be crabs?
At least one person did.
I really wanted just the ending is just all the bosses, everyone is just made out of crabs. Even yourself, you are just one crab.
Kingdom crabs.
Kingdom crabs. That's what the end screen is. Just kingdom of crabs.
Simple
Nothing more.
and clean is the way that you're making me feel tonight. It's just that song and just like Alaskan crabs in the background.
Just a bunch of little crabs just coming together to create the end screen.
Mm-hmm.
See, that sounds like a good ending right there.
No.
Sounds better than what you told me.
Okay, yeah. It deserves at least a 4 out of 10.
So, gotta ask, because I didn't ask this one before. Is the group is it still the same group, like the Court of 13, so it's like the Xehanorts or whatever,
Yeah.
that you're supposed to like be fighting?
Yeah, it's all those guys again. And then there's like anyone that you killed, they were the previous Organization 13, and now there's a new Organization 13. But they all look and talk the same and have similar names like Zemnis and Zeus, blah, blah, blah. And so it's like, you don't even know who's new and who's not new.
What?
They're like, that was the old organization. This is the failsafe organization. It's like, who cares? You can just admit your writing sucks. Like, no one's going to blame you. It happens.
But it was their plan all along. There wasn't just one group. There was this other group that was behind another group the whole time.
2 Organization 13s, and they all look the same and are led by the same guy and wear the same fucking shit. And have the same plot. So,
fucking
yeah, totally
twisty right
different.
there. So twisty.
Yeah. Okay. Let's get back to it. The first game I bought was Resident Evil 2 Remake. And the reason why I played that one first is because I knew that it had an A side and a B side, different campaigns. So I thought it would be a great, smaller game.
And you heard the game was actually good.
Yes.
You needed a break from bad games.
Yes. But I thought it was a good buffer between all the other ones. So each campaign's 8 hours, which is a sizable campaign. And there's 2 of them. So I was like, okay, I'll play this between all the other games that I've got. So Resident Evil 2 Remake was the first game I got. Second game that I got that I haven't touched either of these yet. But Assassin's Creed Odyssey was $15 at Best Buy. Picked that up.
Oh, wow.
And I also did end up getting Spider-Man for $20. So that was good.
Nice. Actually, not bad deals for those games. Especially because, Spider-Man and Assassin's Creed came out last year?
Spider-Man came out this year. Nope, wait.
No.
Nope.
Bunch of DLC was this year. Came out last year, though.
Yep, you're right. Kingdom Hearts came out this year.
No.
That game was the cheapest of all.
Did Kingdom Hearts 3 really come out this year? I thought it came out...
It did come out this year. I got it for $13.
Oh my god.
Look it up.
Oh my god. It came out January 25th, 2019. Yeah. Oh my god.
I remember it was a couple days after my birthday, and I was like, this would be make a great birthday present gift. And then I saw the reviews, and I was like, oh my god, no. No, I kind of expected it to be shit, honestly. I knew better, but it sucks that they couldn't escape their own fate.
I know we keep tangent on this, but I gotta ask this question too. They lease end the game, or is there still like weird cliffhangers where like there's a potential that there's more?
Dude, I don't even know. I don't understand the story. I don't know how many times I've got to say that. Not like just in general. Like I don't. If they like showed someone at the end smiling, like I'd be like, is that a good smile or like a nefarious smile? Like is that a good thing, or is that like a new group is gonna come up? From what I've heard, though, this is the end of Sora's tale. So like, he dies. No, I'm kidding. I wouldn't.
I would be okay with that.
he's stuck in Arendelle in the frozen world.
Oh God, he's living in hell.
Let it go, let it go. He's like, oh no, kill me. So I honestly don't remember, but I remember that the director of the games was saying that this is the end of the Sora saga. So if they have anyone else take the place and like visit Disney Worlds, then that could be a thing. But it's good that they're just hitting the reset button on this bitch because they really need it.
I enjoy the worlds, so like part of me hopes they continue to make more. Just learn from their mistakes.
Yeah, I agree. Last week when I was playing the game going through the worlds, I said the saving grace of the game was the combat because I didn't give a shit about the story or anything. But by the time you get to the end of the game, they've got nothing else but to wrap up the story. And so you're just engulfed in the worst characteristics of the game. There's no like, oh, I'm fighting along the side with Buzz and Woody in Toy Story. Like, that was actually pretty cool. But now it's like, oh, there's these ominous people in black trench coats that I don't give a shit about, and they're doing something and I don't care. I just tap X a bunch of times and I win.
Oh God. All right, we seriously gotta stop talking about this game. We're giving this game like way too much airtime. This is ridiculous.
Yeah, okay. Okay.
We need to let it die.
I'm okay with that. But, so Resident Evil 2 was good. I am excited to play the second one, but I'm going to play Spider-Man next. I just installed it onto my PlayStation, and I was going to get around to it in the next day or two.
Nice. I am jealous. That is one of the games like I'd want to play or get a PlayStation for, is to play Spider-Man. That along with a couple other games. So.
Yeah.
Nice.
Have you seen any movies in the last week?
Any movies? I didn't see any movies, but I did. We're gonna get into Weeb Talk again. I've watched more anime.
Of course you did.
Surprise. Hey man, Cass loves it. I love it. It's great.
I don't hate anime, but there's certain words that like put a sour taste in my mouth. Like, oh, this guy is way too into like wrestling or, you know, Barbie dolls or something. Whenever you say a weeb or a weebo, or I think are those interchangeable?
I have no idea.
Weeb, weebo? Is it like possum and opossum? No.
I don't know what the other one is. I just know what the weeb is, not a weebo. I don't know if there's a difference.
All right. But yeah, I don't like I like Full Metal Alchemist. I like One Punch Man. That's a good one. Death Note was all right for a while.
Guess what? I watched the show that was also created by the guy who made One Punch Man. I started watching season 2 of Mob Psycho 100.
Like, they're just not creative with the names. I'm just going to go ahead and throw that in there really quickly.
All right. The main characters, if you've never seen this series before, the main character, his name is Mob.
Bob? Or Mob?
Mob.
Oh, okay.
M-O-B. Mob.
Okay.
And he's a psychic. And he gets ultimate power when his emotions hit 100%.
What does that mean? When are you feeling 100% emotion? Like, what?
So, I don't know if you've ever seen this series, but I highly recommend it. It's the studio that does it is Studio Bones, so they're known for like their animation. So the whole thing is just absolutely gorgeous. And the whole thing is Mob is a high school kid who, like One Punch Man, is the best psychic in the world. But instead of trying,
One Punch Man is neither a high school kid or a psychic.
Well, I mean, One Punch Man, he can defeat all of his enemies in one punch. Mob can defeat all of his enemies with his psychic abilities because he has
in one brain,
in one thought,
in one think. In one smart.
And one smart. But instead of like the whole concept of like trying to be a hero and trying to like use his abilities, all he wants to do is just be a normal kid. So in high school, instead of joining
It's like the plot of every anime.
the psychic,
be a normal boy.
he wants to be a normal boy. So instead of joining like the the telepath club or the psychokinesis club, he joins the body improvement club and he works out. It's super funny because he's this super small, scrawny kid, and all he wants to do is just make himself better. And along the way, like, all these different psychics kind of like find him along the way, and they're like, "Oh, I'm going to challenge you. Oh, I'm going to do this," and it kind of like starts building up his like stress and emotion, because most of the time he's like blank face, no emotion, very monotone, and then they keep pushing him until he hits that point of 100, which is usually like he's so stressed. He's at 100% stress level right now, and he just like explodes. And when they animate the like explosions that he has, it's just everything gets insane, and it's so cool to watch.
I'm gonna type up 100% emotion explosion into YouTube, and we'll see what comes up. Mob Psycho emotions unleashed. Let's take a look here. Oh,
Perfect.
This is a little scrawny kid. This looks like the kid who's got the ball chin in One Punch Man.
I mean, kind of. I mean, it's the same. It's created by the same guy, so he has like the same kind of like generic circle round-headed design. But yeah, so I'm just started watching the second season that came out, I believe it was last year, and I'm watching it on Funimation right now. And before like season 1 was like the whole build up, like he was getting, or every time he hit a 100 was because he was like really stressed or really upset about something that caused him to explode. And to start off season 2, like he realizes that like he is a ticking time bomb. Like if he lets his emotions go, he will just explode. So it's like really cool, like to see this second season where he's like blown up and beat all these like crazy evil organizations with his powers. That he's like, I could use my powers for evil, but I don't want to. I want to be a better person. So it's just kind of like you just start rooting for him because he's just this kid who doesn't want to like rely on his powers. He just wants to be better, and all he does is try to do whatever he can. And instead of like exploding because of anger or stress, he starts exploding because like he's happy. And when he explodes because of that, it's like the explosion and the animation that they do around it, because I think they got a bigger budget this season. The animation is insane, and I highly recommend just watching just the opening credits for this show, because the animation that they do for it is so good.
Yeah, I know that I'm kind of ripping on it for fun, but I do like One Punch Man a lot because the animation that they do, that studio in general, is pretty good. Madhouse, I think. So is it Madhouse that's also doing this one?
No, so Bones is the one that actually got the rights to Mob Psycho.
Okay.
Let me see. They're a really well-known anime studio, and I'm trying to see because I can't remember what else they've done. Oh yeah, so they've done Soul Eater, Eureka 7, Full Metal Brotherhood.
Okay.
So it's the same design studios as all those animes.
Sure.
And it seems, as I said, like they got a bigger budget for it than they did for the first season. And I think just because Mob Psycho was like the smaller production from One Punch Man, so they didn't think it was going to be super big. The comic of Mob Psycho wasn't as popular as One Punch Man, so they didn't put much behind it. But this season they put a lot into it, and you can really tell, and it's really cool to watch.
I might check it out. We'll see.
So, especially if you liked One Punch Man, I highly recommend it.
Yeah, I've got nothing against anime. I like anime a lot. I think just my biggest issue is people are so polarized about anime. There's no gray area. It's always like they hate it or they love it and they can't get enough that they just love to talk about it. And so I love to give people a hard time, but at the same time I like it. I'm just not like whenever I talk about anime, I will say my emotion level's at like 20% tops. It's good. I enjoy it.
Yeah. And that's fine. I mean, it's definitely not for everyone. So
Mob Psycho, what?
Mob Psycho 100.
100. I should have been able to guess that.
So, and as I said, you can watch it on Funimation. I don't think you need an account for Funimation, but it has the subbed and the dubbed. If you want to actually see it in English, which I prefer dubbed over sub, just because I don't like to read, because I ain't no smart, books kid.
Reading's for suckers. Good. Got two perfectly good ears. Why would I want to fill them up with Asian language? We just lost like so many fans. No, I'm kidding.
We lost, I don't know. The one fan is probably still here. Maybe. I don't know anymore.
You say. So is that the only other thing? Is that the only thing that you watched, or did you check out anything else?
So the other thing I was going to talk about is another anime.
God.
All
right.
What do you want? It's what I watched.
I'm going to make fun of it, but lay it on me.
All right. So it's called My Hero Academia.
Yeah, I've heard of this one.
It's an anime that is based in a superhero world, and our main characters are all students that go to a school that is designed to help kids that have special powers become superheroes in their future, or become a professional superhero.
Take the plot that Cole just described from Mob Insane 100 and reverse it. Instead of one person having superpowers and wanting to be normal, everyone has superpowers and he wants to be super. It's the exact opposite story.
Except this time, the main character doesn't have a superpower.
That's what I'm saying. He wants to be super. He wants to. He doesn't have superpowers and he wants to be super. The other guy has superpowers and he doesn't want to be super. It's the plot has switched. Are they both in high school? Yes, obviously. Every anime is in high school. Are they nervous around women? Yes. No.
I mean, I'm still nervous around women. Come on.
Well, I'm still nervous around high school girls, but that's because I'm a normal person and I don't want anything to do with them at my age.
You probably shouldn't be talking about that kind of stuff on the podcast.
It could be a bad thing. Oh, it's fine.
But yeah, so as I was saying, bring it all back. The show is on its 4th season now. And at this point, like, you've already kind of gone through, like, our main character getting into, like, the superhero high school, getting his powers and everything. And now he's actually getting to the point of being able to work side by side with professional heroes. So he actually, like, internships with the sidekick of his all-time favorite superhero, whose name is All Might. If you can guess, his powers are he is very mighty and very strong.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yes.
Okay. In a world where everyone has superpowers and it's people's jobs to be a professional superhero, What would be the equivalent of that in our world? If it's something that everyone can do, but some people are professionals at it, like would that just be like a professional walker in like our world? Like everyone has a superpower. How can you be a professional at it if literally everyone can do it?
So I would compare it to like streamers. Like everyone can play video games, right?
No.
You and I play video games.
My mom cannot play video games.
All right, fair. But like there's a difference between like you and I who yeah, we talk about it on a podcast, but like we play video games for fun. And then those like professional that play them as an esport. So I play League of Legends, but I'm never going to be a professional League of Legends player playing on the big stage. And that's kind of like the thing is these are the people that have like trained and worked their powers to such a way that they are able to use them to help people. Because I mean, with a world where everyone has powers, what's stopping someone who has the power to mind control someone, not to use it to just, take all the money in the world for themselves because they have mind control powers.
Inflation.
So.
That's why. They ruin the economy.
You're right.
Bigger picture guy. He can't be that evil.
God damn it. I don't know. I know you're going to keep ripping on it. And I know, as you said, you like anime. But I enjoy these stories. My Hero kind of lands in the same like genre as One Piece, Naruto, Bleach, and I believe it's under all of the same like printing company.
Mm-hmm.
But out of like all of those stories, I really think that this one has the most like actual solid storyline. And I actually really enjoy just kind of the different arcs and the different seasons that they have, because they don't just spend the whole time being like, I'm going to be the Hokage, I'm going to be the number one, and stuff like that. Like, yes, he wants to achieve that, but it also goes like really deep into like the side characters of like, what are their motivations? Like, why are they doing all this? And this season, they've actually spent quite a few episodes not following our main character. And you actually get to see like everyone else who has been going to high school now for a while, also doing like their internships with Pro Heroes, and get to see how they're actually doing. And it's just really cool because it does bring it back around that the main story is like all those people working together for one bigger goal. But yeah.
All right.
I don't know.
I'm looking up the definition for Hokage now.
That is the leader of a...
No. Let me read you the definition. Literal meaning is fire shadow. It is the cage of Kanahagagagagla, a title bestowed on the village's leader. He's the strongest shinobi in the village. There have been 7 Hokage in the village's history. What are we Oh, this is Naruto. Damn it.
We're just reading the Naruto stuff. Come on.
7 Hokage in the village's history. What village? All right. God. He is a village leader.
Yes, but I'm not talking about that show.
But, I mean, the word has to mean the same, right? This guy wants to be, like, the chief, or... He wants to be the leader.
He wants to be the number one hero.
He wants to be the very best. Like, no one ever was.
Like, no one ever was. But, he wants to be the very best. Like, if he was a YouTube streamer, he wants to be the PewDiePie.
Dang. All right. Now you're speaking my language.
I knew I could get to you eventually. God damn it.
My Hero Academia is like a pizza, and it wants to be a New York slice, but right now it's kind of a California slice. Gotcha.
Exactly. Like if it was a cake, It's just a single tier cake. We're getting more tiers, okay? He wants to be like a 3-layered tier cake.
Like velvet ice cream cake.
Exactly.
So, shall we move on?
I don't know. I don't think... Apparently, I can't bring up these topics with you.
You can, but I feel like I don't know what you're talking about, and so the only contributions I can make are just to rip hard on you. So as long as I don't drive you out of the podcast, then we should have like a safety word. If I go too far, say Hokage.
God damn it. Hokage.
All right, we can move on then. I saw one movie this weekend, or last week. It was Knives Out. Have you heard of it?
Were the knives out?
They were. There was a big circle of knives.
Oh, man.
Have you heard anything about this movie at all?
I have. I heard like this got 100% rating on Rotten Tomatoes, like super good rating, and it's supposed to be like super amazing.
It is really good. It falls into basically every murder mystery trope imaginable, but I think that's why people like it. The main detective has like the southern drawl, like, I believe we have a murder, stuff like that. I thought that the movie was decent, but my only problem with it is that it advertised itself way too much as a murder mystery, that the second that you sit down in your seat, you're basically always second guessing everything that you see. And I'm not going to spoil the movie, but when the tagline for the commercial is the greatest whodunit since whatever, they basically tell you in the trailer, expect a twist. It kind of ruins the ending a little bit when it comes to like twist movies or mystery movies. It's like why I can't enjoy an M. Night Shyamalan movie anymore. One, the guy's fucking insane and none of the movies make any sense. But two, you always know he's going to try to throw in a twist now, so there's no longer a surprise. I feel like I'm going on a bit of a tangent here. I'd give the movie a 7 out of 10.
All right. Good movie.
It was good. But I just wish that they didn't make it so obvious during the commercials, during the reviews, during the first half of the movie, that they're like, oh, something unique is going to happen now. It's a murder mystery. Nothing's as it seems. It's like, okay, we get it. You're gonna switch it up on us.
I mean, they let you know so that way like you're trying to pay attention like super closely the whole time.
No, the best movies have...
No, that's what they do for all of those. It's like the murder on the Oriental Express. You know that like something like there's going to be a twist, but you're trying to like pay attention the whole time. It's like, okay, can I figure out who it is?
I disagree. One of the best twists in cinema, in my eyes, is Fight Club, and it's because the movie never advertised itself as having a twist at the end. It was just like, where's this movie going? And then at a certain point, you're like, oh, something's not lining up, and then boom, it all makes sense after a certain point. Some of the best twists are from movies that you didn't expect to have twists. The Sixth Sense was not a movie about mysteries or twists or anything like that. The Sixth Sense was a movie about a kid. It was kind of a horror film, but a kid who was basically solving or helping the dead find peace to move on. And then it turns out, boom, big twist at the end. The best twist movies don't say that they're going to have a twist.
It doesn't have to be the best twist movie. It's supposed to be a mystery movie. That was like the whole thing. Like, it's a mystery. You're trying to figure out what the mystery is.
I guess so, but I still like it when it's not so in your face. 7 out of 10 is a good score.
I'm sorry. It's just the fact that your biggest gripe is just because there is, or it says there's a twist, and the movie, as it promises, has a twist. Is the
Go
thing
and
that
watch it,
bothers you.
because it's always reinforced in the first half of the movie. They're always saying, oh, this is not as it seems, and this does,
Have you ever seen the movie Vantage Point?
no.
So I actually thought it was a really cool movie, but it's about like, I think it was. It's been a while since I've seen it, but Vantage Point is there's an assassination in the middle of this like town square, where like a bomb goes off, and you're like the whole thing is you see how things. It all happens in a single day, and it just shows you the vantage points of each of the different people. Of this is how they saw the event. This is how they saw the explosion. Leading up to that event, this is what they heard. And you're kind of like building the picture and to figure out actually what happened through all of these different vantage points. So it's the whole thing is like you're trying to figure out and solve like what really happened through all these like different perspectives, but you never really have the full story the whole time. And like it tells you straight up on it, you won't have the full story until you see everyone's perspectives.
That sounds cool to me.
Yeah. And that's why, like, when you're saying, it's like, you keep saying, like, oh, well, they keep telling you things aren't as they seem. They do that in a lot of movies, though.
I think this one's a little different. Go see it. If you really want to compare notes here, go see it, and I would like to go into further discussion once we both have an idea of how the movie actually plays out.
Okay.
All right. That's all I've got. We can move on to our top 5 if you'd like.
Sure.
So, top 5 this week was top 5 dialogue in games. Now, this was inspired by The Outer Worlds because when Mike, the ex co-host, and I were playing The Outer Worlds, we were talking about how great all the options were. But even though it was inspired by all the different options for dialogue, Cole, if I remember correctly, you and I are just doing it with kind of like witty writing and dialogue that brings in personality to the game, rather than a lot of different like dialogue trees and options and stuff, right?
Yeah, so kind of my thinking was for games like with good dialogue are like games that had dialogue that really gave the game personality, but also was like really memorable and made you like really think about that game, especially like later on.
Yes. Agreed. So Cole, you started last time. I can start this time.
Yeah.
I'll say my number 5, my number 4, my number 3, then we'll switch. My number 5 is Borderlands, specifically Borderlands 2. So, Borderlands 2 had, I would say it had a pretty witty kind of personality to it. I mean, it was very witty. It was almost too witty. When we got to the pre-sequel, the third game in the series, then it became a little too much. But the second one, I think they really hit their stride. Did you play Borderlands 2?
I did. And I'm wondering, like, is there a specific character that really stood out to you for, like, dialogue in Borderlands 2?
I think it just was that they had a good variety. In the first game, they had, like, Dr. Ned and... who else was in the first game? Like
Claptrap.
I was gonna say Claptrap probably had the most personality in the first game, but all the other guys were kind of like side characters. I mean, Dr. Ned is probably the one that you see the second most, and he's kind of funny, but he doesn't do much. Like, the animation in the first game was really lacking.
Yeah.
They just kind of stood there and did like one simple talking animation over and over again, and that was it. But the second game, they had, probably on one extreme, they had Tiny Tina as, like, the character that was, like, maybe we're getting too crazy. And then there were also some very down-to-earth types of characters. Tanis is kind of a good mid-ground, but like all of the main, like the Siren, what's her name, Lilith, like she's a very serious character, and Roland is a very serious character. But then they're in the same universe as Claptrap and Tiny Tina, and I thought that that had a very good amount of variety with like silly but serious. And so I thought that Borderlands 2 was a really, considering that I really didn't give a shit about the story that much, I thought that they did a good job of telling the story as with as much brevity as possible and in an entertaining way.
Yeah, like honestly, I didn't care about the story at all in Borderlands 2, but just like the character interactions, and especially like personally, I always liked talking with Tiny Tina because, I mean, it's a tiny girl who's absolutely psychotic, but super smart. So it was always just like really funny to see her interactions, and I always enjoyed having to talk with her. So no, that game I think also has a really, just as you said, good variety of characters that have just some really fun dialogue points.
Yeah. And with Tiny Tina especially, so she's kind of the one that made me start to think, okay, maybe this humor is getting a little too outlandish, but it was forgivable because I really like that voice actor, Ashley Birch. She's really funny. If anyone's ever watched those old videos of, they're called on YouTube, "Hey Ash, what you playing?" They're so funny, but they are just like classic old YouTube, Vimeo, whatever platform that they were using back in the day. Like it's hilarious shit. And she landed the job as Tiny Tina, and I thought that she is just a really incredible, I guess I would say, influencer in the gaming industry. I thought that job fit her very well. So Borderlands 2 is probably my number 5. It was on the verge of being a little too annoying, but it probably had the best mix out of all the other Borderlands games. Number 1 was a little stale. Number 2 was good, and then number 3 it got a little like crazy.
And by 3 you mean the prequel, right? Not the actual Borderlands 3 that came out.
The prequel, but I've also heard Borderlands 3 suffers quite a bit as well with just being kind of off the walls.
Okay.
So, number 5 is Borderlands 2. Number 4 is The Wolf Among Us. This is a Telltale game. And a Telltale game, for anyone who doesn't know, is a game that's kind of like it's like the Walking Dead series, where you're basically given a narrative. And this is one where your dialogue does actually choose, what happens, but hardly. Let's be serious here. It hardly makes a difference. But they spend a lot of time with making those conversations really count, because there is hardly any combat in the game. There's hardly any major action. There might be like 2 or 3 explosions in the full like 6 or 7 hour campaign, but they really focus on the conversations and the dialogue a lot. Have you ever played The Wolf Among Us?
I've played the first episode of The Wolf Among Us, and I thought it was really cool, like, because it's set in that fantasy fairy tale world, so it's all the classic fairy tales, so kind of like hearing their dark and edgy story of that was really cool. And I don't know, I always played the wolf as kind of an asshole in that game, so I always really enjoyed like those dialogue points.
Yeah. So I didn't give a description of the game. Basically, you play as everyone in this small like community. Everyone lives in New York City, but within a small community, like everyone kind of knows who each other is. There exists a group of fantasy characters that have made it over to our real life New York City. So you play as the Big Bad Wolf, aka Bigsby Wolf, is your like human form name, and you're a cop detective. But there's people that you run into during the game that are also characters from fairy tale stories. There's Sleepy Hollow, what's his name? Ichabod Crane. There's Tweedledum and Tweedledee. There's Sleeping Beauty. There's Beauty and the Beast. What's her name? I can't remember any of these.
Belle.
Belle. But so there's a lot of these fairy tale creatures and people that they have human forms, but they exist. They still have all of their like fantasy backgrounds. Although not everyone is human. So there's talking animals still. Like I think your roommate in the game is a pig, and he talks.
He's one of the pigs that you blew his house down. So to make up for it, you let him crash at your house as a roommate.
He's extremly cynical. Not too happy about what happened to his houses and his brothers.
Yeah. Which I find hilarious.
So some of them that are animals, they can't go out on the streets and live normal jobs. Basically, they're confined to like the apartments or the buildings that they live in. And the game is really interesting because you actually can play as a human. You walk on the streets and whatnot. But then when you become... Like, you've got an anger problem. You're the big bad wolf. So whenever you get, like, too angry, your guy becomes more and more feral. You can see, like, the hair on his arms start to grow out a bit more. He starts to develop fangs in his teeth and stuff. So it's really cool where your character kind of becomes animalistic based on his emotions. And there's a murder mystery that happens in this game, and you've got to solve it, which I thought also worked very well for the kind of dialogue-focused games that Telltale was making. A mystery makes the most sense, where you've got to trail people and what would you call it when you're kind of like talking to them, trying to get information out?
What's that when you're called? Interrogating them?
Interrogating, yep. So that was my favorite Telltale game, probably.
Yeah, no, out of the Telltale games, I played I played most of the Walking Dead series, and I played the Game of Thrones series as well.
Yeah.
And I always really enjoyed The Wolf Among Us. I thought that one was really, really cool. Sadly, for some reason, my game always had issues, so it would crash partway through. Uh-oh. So I never could actually get super far into The Wolf Among Us, and I'm really sad about that, because I did enjoy it, but it always crashed on me. So, as I said last week about, like, The Last of Us, I kept redoing, like, the start of the game over and over again. I was like, I can't do this anymore.
It sucks.
Yeah. It was unfortunate.
All right, before we move on, actually, I've got one funny story in The Wolf Among Us. I may as well share it. I don't think I've told this story yet in the podcast. So, there's a part where you're at a bar and you're talking with the lumberjack from the Little Red Riding Hood story. You know, he comes in and he saves the grandmother at the last second. And he's just this big burly dude who, you know, dresses in plaid and stuff. But at the beginning of the game, he is kind of like, I think it's like a domestic violence dispute or something, where he's like beating up some woman and you come in and just basically beat the shit out of him. And so you find him later in the game at a bar and you're talking and he's kind of settled down a bit and he's like, you know, do you forgive me for what I did to her and all that? And there's an option. It gives you two options. It says like forgive him, and then the other option is glass him. And in my head, I was like, yeah, I beat the shit out of this guy. Actually, you drive his axe through his head at the beginning, and I know that sounds like that would be a killing blow, but everyone who's a fairy tale creature, they have like basically superhuman endurance or health or whatever you want to call it. So he was able to recover from that.
Yeah, the fairy tale people are immortals, so they can't be killed unless by another fairy tale item that's meant to kill them.
Yeah. So you drive the what's his name? The
lumberjack.
I was gonna say logger. Yeah, you drive the lumberjack's axe through his own head, but it's only just like a small amount. So later you see him and it says, yeah, you can forgive him or you can glass him. And I was like, I owe this guy a fucking drink because I, gave him a pretty big wound. So I click glass him, but glass him doesn't mean buy him a drink. Glass him means take a shot of the vodka that's in front of you and then take the shot glass and drive it into his face. So, so this guy was like, man, I fucked up. I'm really sorry. Will you forgive me? And I just smash him against the bar with glass in my hand and in his eye and everything. And we just basically brawl it out again in the bar. Like, I tried to make amends, but I didn't understand what glass meant. So I just beat the shit out of him a second time.
Oh, man. That's hilarious.
Yeah. So just remember, don't glass him when it comes to that option. Or at least know that glassing him means taking the shot glass and smashing it against his face.
Literally means hitting him with that glass.
Yes. It does not mean buying him a drink. All right. My third dialogue game is on a similar caliber to The Wolf Among Us. I would say it's not from the same company, but the game is very similar. This company is called Don't Nod, I believe, and the game is called Life is Strange. Did you ever get a chance to play this one?
I did. I really enjoyed the Life is Strange.
Yeah. So the Life is Strange is a story about you play as a woman who realizes that she can reverse time from like a minute back or something, and there's more to it, but I don't want to give much away because it is honestly, we're getting into games that I really like here. And basically you play out, and it's a dialogue driven game, just like The Wolf Among Us, where the choices that you make will influence future decisions and interactions. But the game actually makes quite a big difference in comparison to The Wolf Among Us, where it seems like your choices almost mean nothing by the end of the game. Life is Strange actually feels like there's a bit more riding on each choice, and it gives you the option to reverse and change your choice if you don't like it, because she has the ability to, reverse time up to like a minute or so, or like, into recent history. So that was a really cool idea to go along with that kind of gameplay.
Yeah, I don't even know where I was going to go with this, but I thought that game was really cool because there are parts too where, like, your decisions that you make, you can't rewind because you're having like issues with your power, so you can't rewind. So it really depends on what decisions you made beforehand. Like, did I make the right decision so that the point where I can't rewind anymore and reset this actually make a difference and actually take effect?
Yeah. Yeah, it does a good job of kind of laying out all the options, but then once everything starts to come together, then it's like, oh shit, I should have done this differently, and now we're way too far to change anything.
Yeah.
So those are my top three. Is number 5 Borderlands 2, number 4 The Wolf Among Us, and number 3 Life is Strange. Cole, what's your number 5?
My number 5. So I actually started off with a game that you really don't have much choice in dialogue, but I actually really enjoyed the dialogue that was in it. And this was the first time this series had ever done actual voice casting. So my number 5 is Zelda Breath of the Wild. So with this one, as I said, most of the time Zelda games are a silent protagonist where you just get chat bubbles, people talking to you, kind of helping like tell the story around you. And on the latest version, they actually had voice actors come in to play like some of the major characters in the series or for this game.
Yeah.
And
in the previous ones, they would always just show a box of text, and the character would be like, huh?
Yeah.
Like as you go along, they would like make weird gurgling noises.
Yeah, and I mean, Link still doesn't talk, which I think is fine, and I actually enjoy that. And it was just like, so there's the 4 sages, and every time you get a cutscene where they're talking, I thought it was really cool, especially with Rivali. He was always kind of like one of my favorite characters because he's just this cocky asshole who's like, I'm the greatest archer, I'm the greatest flyer.
Oh, he's the bird guy.
Yeah, he's the bird. And the whole time, like when you're getting the flashbacks, he's like being super cocky to you. But after you like help him out and everything, he finally gives you respect. He's like, you know what? You did something I couldn't do. I'll finally give you the respect, and I'll be there for what you need. And it was just like really cool to have that kind of like emotion actually spoken. And I thought that was really cool to especially see in a Zelda game where you don't normally get that.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, yeah. And as I said, I really liked all of the four sages. They were really cool. Having them all voice acted.
I can't contribute much to that. I played probably half of the game before stopping, but yeah, I can't contribute much. I apologize. I'm glad that you liked it, though.
I can't believe you said that you only got through halfway through that game. Like,
I'm
there's
a black sheep.
So much going on. All right, this might be the last time I'm on the podcast. Can't handle it.
Yeah, I know. Did I ever tell you that I ran up the Death Mountain without any kind of proper armor or anything? I ran up the whole mountain on fire.
I did not know that.
I had a lot of food.
I mean, that's how you're supposed to get to, like, the village.
No, you're supposed to eat the heat peppers or whatever, so you don't...
there's supposed to be, like, it's supposed to be a potion, but trying to find the right ingredients for it never works. So everything I've ever seen online, and this is how I did it too, was just run just shirtless, no pants, just running straight through Death Mountain as fast as I could to get to the actual town, and just on fire the whole time, talking to people as I'm in the town, just on fire.
Oh, okay. I thought I was the only one that did that.
Oh no, I'll send you a link after this because there's a really funny animated video of just like how to get through Death Mountain, and it's just Link just yelling as he's on fire the whole time, just like running through Death Mountain as fast as he can. It's really funny.
All right, I'll have to check that out. Yeah.
So yeah, number 5 is Zelda Breath of the Wild. My number 4 is a free game that actually came out a while ago. This one is text and is a lot about the choices you make, and it's Doki Doki Literature Club. Have you heard about this game or played it at all?
I think whenever anyone talks about it, they're always like, "Ooh, keep playing, play till the end. Something happens."
So, the whole premise of the game is you're in high school. You join the high school's literature club, and it's supposed to play out like a dating simulator game. There's 3 girls in the club, 2 of them that you can like romance and like talk with, and try to get closer to. And I always really liked it because like they don't outright say a lot of the things that are going on in the background. It's all about like the subtle hints. So as you're talking along, like you get to like understand more about like this character's like family life and like how things are kind of shitty. But as you said, like this is a game you have to play all the way to the end because it sounds like a dating simulator later game. It's actually a horror game.
Yeah, I was gonna say just go through it. I don't care about spoilers.
You say that now
for those kinds of games.
The whole thing is actually it's a horror game, and the decisions you make are all the wrong choices. And there's one character who gets very upset about all the choices you make and starts fucking up the world around you, and things get fucking dark and twisted. And
go into detail here. I'm never going to play this anime dating simulator.
you didn't want to go into Resident Evil, a game that's been out, or that was a remaster and that hadn't been out forever, so I didn't want to go into this one too much for you.
Well, if you don't want to share, then that's fine, but I'm definitely going to look up a YouTube video immediately after this.
And that's fine. Honestly, if you don't want to play it, don't. Watch just a YouTube video of it. um, because it's well worth just like seeing what happens. Because as I said, like there's two girls that you get a romance, but things keep getting like super fucked up. That literally one of the girls kills herself for you.
Mm-hmm.
And this is after like having a very peaceful conversation, and then all of a sudden she just takes a knife out and kills herself. And you're just like, what the fuck just happened?
Dang.
And then everything continues on like nothing ever happened. You're just like, what is going on?
Yeah, I'm very interested to get a summary of this game after the podcast rather than play it, I think. Is the dating simulator actually fun, or is it like more that it's cool that it's this subtle horror story in the background?
The dating simulators, like, whatever. Like, I always kind of like those kind of games because you're trying to figure out. It's a puzzle of how to actually get together with that person. So like making sure you get all the right characteristics for them.
It's a panty puzzle.
Yep. It's not really, but because it's a literature club, you have to write poems, and your poems, depending on how you rate them, influence the different girls in the club to get you to like them more.
All right.
I always thought that was kind of cool. I don't know. It's fun, but if you don't actually want to play it and that's not your type of game, definitely just at least watch the YouTube video or watch someone's playthrough of it. Because as I said, things get super fucked up, but then for some reason go back to normal, and they don't explain it until the end, which makes it even better. Like there's a point in the game where you actually have to go into the game, the actual game files, and delete things.
Nice. That's cool.
Yeah, you actually have to leave the game, delete a bunch of things, and then reload it again. So it was a really cool kind of like concept to make it work.
Yeah, that does sound cool.
Oh. But yeah, so Doki Doki Literature Club is my number 4 for dialogue. As I said, like it's a dating simulator, but it's actually like a horror game, and trying to like figure out what's going on and kind of get those like subtle. Yes, I said girl commits or like kills herself, but there's a lot of subtle things that are going on at the same time that just makes you think like, what the fuck is going on? And it's really cool. Yeah,
I'll have to look into that. Yeah,
number 4. My number 3 is going to be Fire Emblem 3 Houses. I know you were waiting for this, and I told Cass I was going to put this as in my top 5. So this is the game that I put way too many hours into and just finished it up recently. And
did it end well?
The ending was okay. I wasn't super stoked on like the ending and everything. But it was kind of cool because your whole thing is like you're in a church, but it's kind of fucked up because the church makes students go fight and kill people that are in other churches that are against their religion. And like at the end, they actually like explain like why it is. And I don't want to say it because it completely spoils it, but you're like, oh my God, this whole thing has been a lie from the start. So it gets really intense in that fact. But for the dialogue aspect of this actually isn't the main storyline at all. Because I wasn't super invested in the main story. The dialogue the reason I picked this as my number 3 for dialogue is the interactions between the other characters. It's some of like my favorite interactions. We had one guy on our team. His name was Raphael. He's this big, like hulking guy, like busting out of his shirt, and the whole time, like he seems, big and scary, but he's actually like super soft and super sweet. And his interactions with like some of like the really shy people are so funny and just so sweet. Like there's one part where he's outside training, working on like getting stronger, and one of like the shy girls like finds him and she's like, why are you yelling? And he's like, I yell because I gotta let it out. I gotta just scream to feel the intensity and feel strong. And she's like, you know what? I'm small. I want to feel strong too. She's like, you should do it, girl. You should just let it out. Yell with me. And they just start both yelling, and it's just so goofy and hilarious just to watch. Like, you just have a whole dialogue of just, ah, 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 ah.
All right.
And I know that's just, like, super goofy, but for me, I really enjoyed, like, that little aspect of the game.
No, it's fine. I wanted to play Fire Emblem Three Houses. It really, like, I could see dialogue like that go two different ways. I really just have to see it in the game, you know? Mm-hmm. Some of the goofiest dialogue is really good, but then some of the most casual dialogue can just also be terrible. You just have to see the context it's in.
Yeah, and as I said, like, I said this before about it, like, you are trying to build, like, relationships, like, have people bond together as friends more, and the more you do it, you get more dialogue. That actually helps you in combat because they have better friendship ratings, so they give, like, boosts for battle, which is cool. And I didn't 100% like watch or go through all of the dialogue. Some of, like, the side dialogue I definitely skipped because it was like, I don't care. Cool, your whole thing is you like to paint. Cool, stop telling me about how you want to paint things. I don't care anymore. So
Painting
there's definitely
is fun.
So there's definitely that, but there's some, like, other, like, conversations. You're like, I don't even care. This is just funny, and I really like this. Oh, especially, like, as I said, I put 90 plus hours into this game, so I already had, like, such an investment in some of these characters. To actually see them interact was really cool.
You can play the game 3 separate times, right? Because you can play each house.
There's technically actually a 4th storyline as well.
Okay.
So you can play it, you can play it 4 different ways, which is really cool.
So, excuse me. So the 90 hours, that was just into one storyline, right?
Yeah, and that was more of just, like, me and Cass, like, taking our time, doing all the small little side quest stuff. Like, Cass is replaying it now, and she's already blowing through a lot more than a lot faster than we had done originally. So originally we'd played as the Golden Deer, and now she's doing the Black Eagle household. So she's going much faster, and I don't think the game really takes 90 hours to beat the main story, but it was just the way we were playing it, especially with us both going back and forth passing the controller. I think took a lot longer, because we also had some debates on how we should do certain parts. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But yeah, cool. So my number 3 is Fire Emblem Three Houses. And just to kind of recap my top 3. Number 5, I have Zelda Breath of the Wild. Number 4, Doki Doki Literature Club. And number 3, Fire Emblem Three Houses.
Alright. I really do want to try Three Houses at some point. Maybe after I play all these 6 games I bought.
It might be a good idea to let it kind of finish out a couple other games, because that game does take quite a bit, and I feel like if you do put it down and don't come back to it and stuff, like, it's a game that you just won't finish, kind of thing.
Sure. Oh, excuse me.
No yawning. Knock that off. It's not allowed.
Sorry.
Jesus.
I'm sleepy.
Gosh, you're getting old.
I know.
Can't stay up late.
All right. Gotta get into it. Number 2. All right, my number 2 is Divinity Original Sin 2. I don't think that you played this game.
I didn't play this game at all. I know you and Mike played it a ton, but it was the gameplay wasn't something that I was super interested in, so I never picked it up.
Yeah, it is a turn-based strategic RPG. So basically, if you were gonna look at the game aesthetically, like, close your eyes, it looks like Diablo 3, but it's turn-based. So each of your characters goes one at a time, and there's 4 characters on your team. So one person could be the warrior, one person... It's typical RPG rules. One person's the healer, one person's the warrior, one person's the ranger, whatever. There's a huge amount of customization. Every character is basically their own individual person. That if you were going to make 4 separate Skyrim characters or Elder Scrolls characters, that would basically be the same amount of customization that goes into each of these 4 characters. So the dialogue was very cool because in the dialogue you could raise up your charm, your intelligence, your strength, and then they would give you certain options during dialogue to say certain things or to act a certain way. You could, if you had a lot of strength, then you could kind of stiffen up and flex your muscles and kind of use like a brute force kind of way of like, we're going to do this or else I'm going to kill you. And then the person would be like, okay, take the money or, whatever. If you were smart and someone was like, you can't cross this bridge, you'd be like, we already crossed the bridge. We're just coming back to the side that we came on. And the person would be like, oh, well, I'm an idiot. I didn't notice you before. Then go ahead and cross. So there were a lot of different things that you could do depending on what you were raising up. And another amazing feature that they had on top of that was that certain abilities that you got would translate over to dialogue. It wasn't all just combat. So there was one ability called, I think, like Animal Lover or something, where you can... I know that sounds weird. That can't be the right name. But basically, you were able to talk to animals. So there was a part where at the beginning of the game, you're in jail. It's kind of like this island. Think of mini Australia. That's kind of where you are. You're stuck on an island. There's a couple guards, and you just can't leave. But they kind of let all the prisoners roam free and have their own society. So there's a spot.
Does anyone say crikey?
Crikey. No, I don't think so. I say crikey. So
crikey, look over there. There's another bad guy. Let's go kill him.
Oh, it's just a wallaby. Let's throw. How racist can we be here?
Let's throw him on the Barbie.
Yeah, get your boomerangs out, lads. Can we just make fun of all races? No, I'm kidding. So, in the game, you can talk to... Some people can talk to animals if you choose to spec that character that way. So I had a character that could talk to animals, and when you're on this island, on the beach, there's a dog sniffing around. And it turns out if you talk to this dog, it is a guard dog for the prison. And there's like this whole story that if you didn't talk to animals, you would have completely missed, where the dogs can actually help you out if you reunite one dog with another dog. It's kind of like a love story, sort of. It's funny. But it was just a really cool thing. Like, there were several ways that you could sweet talk your way out of the prison, and one of them was through the dogs. Another way was through the humans. Another way was brute force. Another way was, like, sneaking and pickpocketing and lockpicking and stuff. So there were a ton of options, but the dialogue was way more complex than it had any right to be, honestly.
Yeah, I would not expect that from that game whatsoever when I saw it.
Yeah, and everything, like, it gives you the options listed out like a Fallout or like an Elder Scrolls game, but everything on the character's end that you're talking to is all recorded lines. So you pick, like, your response, and then they audibly say their response, and the voice actors are pretty good. Like, I'm going to do a terrible impression here, but the dogs, they would be like, Buddy? Is Buddy there? I'm looking for Buddy. And so they would, like, like the person who is doing the voice acting would be like, you're not Buddy. You don't know Buddy. Like, it's comical, but to get people to do the dialogue impressions of a snarling dog, like, it worked. So...
Yeah.
It was a lot of commitment put towards the dialogue, considering that each person had to be not only people, but also animals. There were mice that people had to be like, did you find some cheese? I'm looking for cheese right now. And it's like that's kind of what I would think a mouse would sound like,
Oh man. Oh yeah.
So
As I said, did not expect that, but that sounds actually pretty cool having that little additional ability to talk to the animals.
yeah, and if you didn't have that ability in the game, you would just totally miss that part of the game. That's kind of how Divinity 2 works, is if you didn't have lockpicking, like in the first half of the game, you're going to get thrown in jail one way or another. There's a point where you get to roam free on this island, but if you get in especially big trouble, like trying to kill or rob someone, you get thrown in like typical, iron jail. And if you don't know how to lockpick, you're basically fucked until you find a way to get your other teammates over to that character. So, like I said, the abilities really matter because I was able to break out of jail every single time, but for someone else, if you're playing cooperatively, you'd be like, well, fuck, I've got to wait here for an hour while my buddy tries to figure out how to get me. Like, there's actually waiting time in the game because it knows that you've got three other people that have to get you out of prison. It's not like Skyrim where it's just like, oh, click the bed, serve your time, you're out of prison again. Like, you are locked up until you find a way to kill the right guard and get the key, or sneak in with someone else and lockpick the door or something. Like, it's really clever.
Mm-hmm.
And all the dialogue options totally play into that. To give one more example, if you are stuck in prison, there's a crack in the wall where you can talk to the crazy woman on the other side of the wall, and through talking to her, you can even find your own way out that way. Like, there's so many options in the game, but specifically the dialogue is just extremely robust.
Nice.
Mm-hmm. All right, that's all I've got to say about that. I know you can't contribute much because you didn't play, but let's get on to your number 2.
Yeah, my number 2 is actually going to be Danganronpa. I don't know if you've ever heard of this game.
I haven't.
But it's actually it is a murder mystery type kind of game. But the whole thing is, there's actually 3 games out now for Danganronpa. The first one is Trigger Happy Havoc and Goodbye Despair. And then I forgot what the third one is. I haven't tried that one yet. But I played 1 and 2. And the whole idea is, the first one is you're trapped in a high school. And
I know this game. I've seen it on Steam. There's like a bear as the mascot of the game, right?
There's a bear, Kuma, who is the mascot. But the whole thing is you're trapped in a school or some location. And the only way to get off or escape from like the school is to kill someone in the class and get away with murder. So how it plays out is you kind of start off a section where everyone's socializing, you're talking, getting to know the different characters. Something happens where one of the characters is murdered, and then you have to pretty much interrogate and find the clues to figure out who is the person who killed one of the other classmates. And if you're able to figure it out by the end of the day, the person who committed the murder is then put up to execution themselves. But if they get away with it, they're set free, and everyone else is executed instead. Oh, it's really cool, kind of like who done it, because the whole time you're playing, like, you're getting to know like your different classmates, and these different situations keep popping up that causes them to kind of like turn and want to kill someone, and kind of that like change from like, we can do this as long as we stay together, like as long as we work together, everything will be fine, everything will be okay. But that like moment of despair of like, my only way out is to murder someone, was always so kind of like intense. And for dialogue in general, I actually like the second one a lot. It's still high school students, but the whole thing is like they're stuck on a tropical island, and they have to figure out why they got stuck on the island, but also during the same time, like Kuma, the bear mascot, is like, if you guys want to escape and figure out why you're on this island, you have to kill someone and get away with murder. and just the dialogue is really cool because that class has some of like my favorite characters. So each people that are in the classes, they're considered ultimate or high school level or all-star level prodigies. So they're really good at something.
Like killing, or what do you mean?
So like one person is the ultimate level chef. So they're like the best chef or high school chef in the world. Or
I mean,
one person.
the best high school chef in the world is like being the best high school janitor in the world. Like, how good is a high school chef? Let's be honest.
I mean, I don't know how much of a chef you are, but they could be very good of a chef. Just because they're in high school doesn't mean they don't know how to cook.
Oh, I thought you meant someone who works in a high school cafeteria.
No. Like,
I was like, come on. If
No,
the
no,
best that they're doing is high school food.
so like all the classes are picked out because like they're the best in the world for something.
Okay.
So like, as I said, one person is like the best chef in the world as a high school kid, or another person is like the best swords master
Murderer in the world.
as a high school kid, and it kind of gets like super ridiculous. So in the second one, you have one kid who is the best mobster, where he's the head of like the largest mob family in the world, and then you also have the best hamster trainer. So his whole thing is he's this dark, brooding character, but he trains hamsters to do all sorts of things, and he calls them his Dark Legion. And it's really funny to watch this character talk because he tries to act like this is his evil army to take over the world, but they're hamsters, and they're just drawn to be like this cute, adorable things. And it's really funny to watch. But yeah, you have these dialogues with all these kind of characters that are just like super far out there for their kind of like stereotype, and it's just really fun because you sit there trying to learn about these characters, so that way when a murder happens you can kind of figure out who is the most likely to do that. So it's that kind of like life simulator of getting to know people mixed with a murder mystery alongside with it.
Can more than one person murder someone in the school? Like, I would think that right off the bat, if you're in charge of the mob, you would have no problem killing someone. So is it just one murder every single game?
No, there can be multiple murders.
Okay.
Yeah. So,
Right.
and like one of them, like 3 people are murdered.
All right.
So they just kind of like go on a murder spree. Like realistically, they could just kill everyone, but if they get caught murdering everyone, excuse me, they also get executed themselves.
Wait, so it's only one person murdering several people?
No, it rotates. So like one person kills someone, you find out who that murderer is. Then you go like there's some peacetime where everything's okay. Something happens, say in the school, for some reason there's like a shortage on, in the school one, the Kuma bear character is going to tell everyone like their darkest secret, if someone doesn't murder someone right away. So because people have like some very like super dark secrets, like they've killed people in the past, they don't want people to know that, or like they've done like really shitty things in their life, they try to hide it. So they murder someone to try to like kind of keep those like things hidden.
Sure.
So.
All right.
Yeah.
How much is this game? I've actually never played. Okay, it's $20. I've never actually played any of these, like Hatoful Boyfriend, whatever it's called. I've never played any of the games that are just like talking exclusively games and nothing else.
Yeah, that whole like life simulator where all you do is like interact with the characters.
Yeah. So maybe I'll check it out. I I think that mystery goes along very well with these kinds of games. Like how I said, The Wolf Among Us goes along very well with that. So if I was going to pick up any one of these games so far, we haven't heard your number one yet, but I think I would probably go with that.
Yeah, no,
All right.
this one, it actually is one of my favorite series to play.
Mm-hmm.
Um, just for that whole mystery aspect of like trying to figure it out, because there's like the mystery every week kind of thing, but you're also like trying to figure out the overall mystery of like why are you there, like how did this all happen, kind of thing. So it's kind of really cool because you're solving like small mysteries while trying to figure out the bigger one on the side.
Mm-hmm.
So, and if you were to try out one, I would definitely suggest trying out the first one, Trigger Happy Havoc.
This game says it's 24 and a half hours long. That's insane for just being a dialogue game.
Um, I could see that. Like
Dang.
it's a lot of dialogue, and I mean you could definitely take breaks in between like the different like periods.
Sure.
So, which makes it nice. Um, but yeah, you really start getting invested in some of the characters. Like the very first one, it has like the ultimate level pop star, the ultimate level uh, baseball player, and kind of some of like the ridiculous ones. The ultimate level psychic, who's the guy who thinks he's psychic and pretends to be psychic but isn't, and it's just really funny to watch his interactions.
Okay.
So, and then you also have the ultimate level street biker gang person. The ultimate,
Right.
sorry, street bike gang leader. So,
Sure.
as I said, it gets super ridiculous. And then, like, you have your normal dialogue, and then you actually have your interrogation piece, where all the information that you've learned along the way, you need to use that information um, in these kind of like quick fire events. So making sure you have the right information, right clues to really prove your point and to make sure that everyone's on your side when you're making the vote of who you think is the murderer.
Hmm.
Yeah. It also, the first one was turned into an anime. If you don't want to spend a bunch of time playing it, you could also just watch it as well.
Does it have the same ending? Like, does it reveal
It's
who the actual murderer is?
yeah, the anime plays along the exact same way as the game.
Okay.
Um,
Well, I'll probably play the game then.
yeah, so definitely worth a check out though. I really enjoyed it, and I think it'd be a fun or something that you like, especially if you like that whole like mystery type thing too.
Yeah, I'll check it out. Whoa, there's a VR version, huh?
Hold on, there
Cyber
is?
Danganronpa VR, the class trial. Yeah, I was putting it all on my Steam wish list and seeing how long the games took to beat. I'm just gonna look into it a bit. Free to play virtual reality adventure came out in 2016.
Probably really bad then.
If it's free to play, yeah, I'm sure it's just like a hour or two long or something, maybe even less. Anyway, I'm excited to
Anyway,
hear your number one then, because that one actually sounds intriguing. I know I've been kind of giving a lot of shit uh, towards your anime selections today, but it's all in good fun, and that one actually sounds pretty interesting.
cool.
All right, my number one is honestly a no-brainer to me because I was looking through this list and I like to write down every single game that fits this criteria, and then I make the list from there and delete the other ones that don't. But the second I saw this one, I just put it right up at the top. So my number one undoubtedly is Undertale.
Hmm.
Did you ever play Undertale?
I only played a little bit of it. I
Mm-hmm.
never played too much Undertale, but I've watched enough gameplay that I know all about the story and how it kind of plays out.
It's great. Honestly, I only played it for I beat it, but I only played it for a couple hours. I know that there's a whole lot of different things that you can do in the game, but everything circles around dialogue. The combat circles around dialogue. The story, I know that all story generally circles around dialogue, but this one takes it to another extreme where there's a part where you're on a talk show and you're answering questions. There's a part where I'm trying to think. You have to like encourage a snail in a snail race to get across the. I don't know. It's hard to even describe everything, but the point is that everything that you do with interacting, like you're just this little girl. You can attack, but usually your main method of defense is speaking and talking. So the game is really good for that. It's awesome that basically they had a really clever way to deliver an old idea of just having an RPG.
Yeah, so I got to ask then, for Undertale, because I know there's like different endings depending on how you played. Which ending did you go for? Ooh.
So this is a funny story. I told Mike this story in a previous podcast episode, but we can bring it back up again. It's been like 15 or 20 episodes since I talked about it. When I first played Undertale, the options it gives you are like attack or hit, and then everything else that you can do. There's, if you're facing a dog, there's like pet, or, if you're facing like another enemy, you can like flirt with the enemy or something. It gives you options that aren't specifically for attacking. So I would always choose, and then the last thing that you can do, it's kind of like Pokemon where it gives you like 4 options, and do you attack, do you go into your bag, do you run? The last option instead of run is always mercy. And so in my mind, I was always thinking mercy is the replacement excuse me. So Pokemon always had run, as in like run away from battle. Mercy, I thought, was always beg for mercy, as basically like,
oh no,
if you want, if you need to run away from a battle, you click mercy to get out of battle. You beg for mercy. So I was like, let's just say a dog came up. So I was petting the dog. Whenever it gave me the option, I was, good boy. I was talking to the dog, and the dog was getting very excited, and the dog was like licking my face, and I just kept petting him, and nothing was happening. And it gets to a point where I was like, okay, I don't know what to do now. So what you're supposed to do at that point is hit mercy. After you've like buttered them up enough, then you hit mercy, and you show them mercy. It's not them showing you mercy. It's not you begging in front of you. It's you showing them mercy. I did not understand that. So I was like petting the dog. I was like doing all these nice things. And then boom, I would just like critical hit, one shot them. Like once you've got their defense down, you can give them a mercy. But if you hit them, the hit basically kills them in one hit because it takes like their defense is down. So it does all the damage. So throughout the entire game, I had no idea that I was doing it wrong. I thought I was playing the best way possible. And I know looking back on it, I'm like, Jesus. I'm like, how could I possibly have gotten that wrong when I was playing through? Because the guys, they'll be like, no, I'm fading. And then they die, and it's kind of like depressing. But in my head, I was like, I did the right thing. I pet the dog. So...
Pet the dog, murder the dog, son of a bitch.
Well, I had no idea. In my eyes, mercy was not a choice. I thought, I've spent 15 minutes petting this goddamn dog. I'm not gonna beg for mercy now. Like I'd have to start the whole fight over again because it would. In my eyes, it was like running away. So
how long did it take you to realize that you could use mercy instead of, or that it didn't actually mean run away? Like how long?
I beat the game.
Oh God!
I went the entire game killing everything. So I got the worst ending possible. They were like, you killed everyone. And I was like, are you fucking kidding me? I spent like 15 minutes petting that dog. And like all this, you gotta like flirt with robots. You gotta do this other shit. And I was like, I was the nicest goddamn person I could have been in this game. But no, they were like, you've killed everyone. You're a huge piece of shit. You deserve to die at the end of the game. And I was like, fuck. So
that's hilarious.
I love the game for the dialogue, but I've never been more frustrated with a game because I went through the whole thing, and I mean it's not it's not like a 3 hour game. It's probably what, like 6, 8, 10 hours. I can't remember.
Yeah.
It's been a couple years. But I was in no mood to replay it and do the exact same thing, but then do mercy at the end of every battle. So I was just like, fuck it. And I guess you could call it a rage quit, but I technically beat the game. And basically, once I beat the game and murdered everyone, I was in no mood to get the good ending because I had literally just done that, minus hitting one other button at the end of any battle. Because mercy, like, they would have given me mercy. I had gotten them to the point where the vulnerability was there.
So I don't know if you know this, but because you got the worst ending possible, you can never get the good ending ever again. The
Cool.
game remembers that you killed everyone, and at the very end gives you a dialogue of, "We still remember how you murdered everyone," which,
Awesome.
to go with dialogue, is super cool. Like the fact that it just remembers that.
Yeah.
But
If
yeah,
that reinforces the point of why this game, in my eyes, has the best dialogue of any game I've ever played, that is a good wrap-up. Just, the game is
frustrates you
hilarious
so
all the way
much.
through. Yeah, and it's frustrating.
That's awesome. I love that so much.
So Undertale gets my number 1. To go through that list once more, number 5, Borderlands 2. Number 4, The Wolf Among Us. Number 3, Life is Strange. Number 2 is Divinity Original Sin 2. And then number 1 is Undertale. Cole, I'm excited to hear what your number 1 is.
I might actually throw you off of what my number 1 is. Realistically, because when we started talking about dialogue and stuff, and how I told you, like, dialogue that really makes you, gives the game personality, and then really makes you remember the game. Like, when we started talking dialogue, the game that actually came to mind first for me, and made me really think, like, this game is super basic, but the dialogue is just so good in it that I just can't put this game down just because I love the interactions with all the characters. And that's Portal 2.
Mm-hmm. That's on my honorable mentions. Yeah, that's a good one.
All right. It's just the dialogue with GLaDOS, the dialogue with Wheatley the whole way through, the dialogue with what GLaDOS is a potato. It's so good because, I mean, it's a really simple puzzle game. It pretty much uses all the same mechanics that it did in the first one, but they really made it come to life with all of these stories and all these characters. And I just really enjoyed that because the puzzles themselves were fine. I enjoyed it. But what made me keep coming back to that game just over and over again is that dialogue. Hearing Cave Johnson give me a story in the background just made me crack up the whole time. And I really, really enjoyed playing that game just because of the dialogue itself. And anytime you talk about dialogue, that's like the first thing that comes to mind, and the first thing I think of dialogue is just those interactions, especially because, once again, you're a silent protagonist. You don't say anything. These characters around you say everything for you, and the way they do it is just so good.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
I agree. I think that GLaDOS especially really brought that game home. But yeah, Hank Johnson, that was really funny. Talking about, like, his wife and the business.
Mm-hmm.
It all...
His, like, decline into insanity. Wheatley, the little, like, robot.
Mm-hmm. It all had very good humor to it, and it was a good balance.
Yeah, it was a really good balance, especially for a game that pretty much just used the exact same mechanics that it had done before. Just all that was really cool. I mean, even the first Portal game, the only person that actually... Well, I guess there's two people that actually talk in the first one. Once again, it's GLaDOS, who's sitting there taunting you the whole time. And then you have the little turret robots that talk. And just when you come across the little turret robot, especially after you mess up the machine that creates them, you just get so sad because they're so depressed about everything that's going on. You're like, oh,
Yeah.
poor little robot, and then you get close and it tries to just murder your face.
Yeah,
No.
those things can be pretty brutal.
So yeah,
That's a good one.
my number one is Portal 2.
All right, so go through your list once more. Number 5 to number 1.
Yeah, number 5, Zelda Breath of the Wild. Number 4, Doki Doki Literature Club. Number 3, Fire Emblem. Number 2, Danganronpa. And number 1, Portal 2.
Okay. I've got one more honorable mention aside from Portal. I was going to say the Stanley Parable.
Ooh, Stanley Parable is a good one. And it actually goes kind of along the same lines as Portal 2.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Yeah, it was originally a mod for Half-Life, and then it became its own game. But basically, you can't do anything in the game except it's a walking simulator, and you're just guided by a voice that tells you what to do. So you start in your office, you go down the hall, take the door on the right, go up to your boss's office, talk to your boss, whatever, and then the game ends. But the cool thing about it is that you can choose to, instead of going in the right door, you can go to the left door. Instead of going up the stairs, you can go down the stairs. And whatever choices you do dictate what the narrator says. If you go and take his path, he can just talk very monotone as if reading a book. But if you start to consistently do the opposite of what he tells you, he gets he gets audibly upset with you and starts calling you names, and it's just a really basically the only thing that the game has going for it is its witty dialogue. So that's why it deserves to be an honorable mention.
So I gotta ask, because I did see you sent me that Snapchat earlier of that you got the achievement, play the game after 5 years walking away.
Yeah, that's partially why I put it on here.
Does it actually give you any kind of like dialogue for that at all, or?
No, so I was looking up. The game came out about 5.5 years ago. I didn't want to fuck up my 5-year break, but yeah, they have an achievement. If you don't play the game for 5 years, that's the achievement. So then you log on and you get it after 5 years of waiting. Unbeknownst to me, the game is obviously about kind of breaking the fourth wall and kind of breaking the rules. You know, the guy tells you to go through the right door, you go through the left. What people were telling me is that you can change your internal computer clock to 5 years ahead and you'll get that achievement whenever you want. So I like to think I did it the all-natural way.
Yeah, I just had to go look and see when the last time I played it, which was in 2016. So,
Ooh.
January 23rd, though. So technically I'm almost at 4 years. I need another year of not playing this game.
Good luck. I know the temptation is tough.
I think I must have randomly picked it up again and be like, I want to try this. So, all right, cool.
Such a weird achievement. Don't play for 5 years.
Well, yeah, it's don't play for 5 years, and then what is it? Doesn't it just say, like, go outside?
Yeah, the achievement is called Go Outside.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a good one.
Nice.
All right. I don't have much else to talk about here. I am house sitting for half of this week, so I was going to finish up Final Fantasy VIII, a game which I haven't touched in about a month and a half, 2 months or so. I brought my Switch, but I brought my PS4 and stupidly forgot to unpack Spider-Man for it, the game that I just downloaded on my PS4 prior to coming out here. So I'm a smart kid.
Attaboy. So proud of you.
Yes. So I'll be sticking with my Switch, which is the only new game I have for that is Final Fantasy VIII still. What are you going to be playing this week, Cole?
So for me, be finishing up Subnautica, and then I actually have a League of Legends Clash tournament this weekend that I'm doing with some friends. So
you're in a team?
Yeah. So it's been attempting to do this, but have actual hosted tournaments that you can play in. They'll host it for like one day. It matches you up depending on your like win-loss rate. You get different things unlocked, but you actually get to play as a team in a tournament style, which is really cool. But the last few times that they've tried it, the game has broken every single time. So we'll see. Hopefully it actually works. I'm excited to really give it a try. I'll give a shout out to our boy Sam, who's going to be on my team as well.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go. All right. Good luck, Cole and Sam. Does your team have a name? Do you get to choose a name?
I think our captain named us Super Pwn Squad.
All right. Well, look out for Super Pwn Squad, everyone, in the future.
We're coming for you.
Mm-hmm.
So.
All right. Next week's top 5 is top 5 best Native American space games.
The list ends after 2.
Yes, top 2. No, top 5. Cole and I decided we're gonna try out to do a podcast every other week now instead of every week. So, what would that put us on? The 3rd week of December. The next top 5 is going to be top 5 games of 2019, being that the following 2 weeks from then is going to be the first week of January. So, we're going to do a top 5. And also, I don't think I'm going to be beating any games between the 3rd week of December and the 4th week. I can't imagine.
Yeah, not with the amount of family going on, so it kind of works out.
Yes, I agree with you. Lots of holiday cheer going around. Don't know how many games I can be playing. So same as the last time we did a best of the year. This is going to be not specifically games that came out in 2019, but it is going to be games that we played in 2019. So, for example, Spider-Man came out 2 years ago, or 1 year ago, in 2018. I'm going to be playing it. If by some chance I finish it in the next month and I say, oh, this game is the best, then that is allowed on my list. Just as much as Resident Evil 2 might be, just as much as Kingdom Hearts 3 might be, even though you should not expect that to be on the list at all.
Oh, I expect Kingdom Hearts 3 to be number 1. If it is not, I will be disappointed in you.
I prepare to be disappointed. That's all I can say. Let's pretend that you never played Banjo-Kazooie ever, and then you played it for the first time in 2019. That is acceptable to be on your list. So, keep that in mind, and we will get back to you in 2 weeks then. That's all I got to say. Cole, you got anything else?
I got nothing else.
All right. We need like a good sign-off. Like, beep-a-dip-bop. That's it.
I'm just going to go with goodbye. There it is.
All right.
That's our sign-off.
Sure.
All right.
Stick with that.
Later.